Yeah, Kamen Rider Geats. So, in this video series, we've talked about how the show looks at desire and its many facets. But we keep coming to like each character and how their desire is ultimately reflected in the show, right? Kawa, his ultimate goal is peace. Buffa, his ultimate goal is victory. Neon is love. And ultimately, the DGP themselves have a desire, and that is for pure entertainment. But the fact that I can sum up these desires in such simplistic terms is something I think the show is finally revealing that's its major critique of all these things. Take the DGP in this episode. They have been underestimating everyone this entire time. The entire time the DGP has been a thing. And in this episode, they are distinctly just going like, yeah, no, look at these past people are fucking idiots. We'll just fucking leave. Whatever. And they move forward with their plan even when people start pointing out like, hey, what about Ace? Hey, what about this? This is kind of a little fucked up. They don't give a shit. It's so much so that even a loyal member of their like group, Niram, basically is like, this is a little bullshit, and is shot for his troubles. And yeah, ultimately, their shallow desire is leading to faults that can be taken advantage of, because ultimately all they care about is entertainment. That simple goal, that simple want, is taken advantage of by Geats, by Ace, and just the fact that he can win all the time and get whatever he wants. It's like they didn't think anything of it other than the original game masters, like, this guy's planning something, but everyone else was just like, yeah, whatever, it's fucking Ace, who gives a shit, all of his wishes are nonsense, right? But ultimately that's because all they were focused on was entertainment, so Ace was able to take advantage of that. Baroba ultimately is able to take advantage of it as well, because she was an audience member. Who gives a shit? Why pay attention to them, right? And the Yamato also found that flaw because they were just a prop. And props don't have complaints. Props don't talk, you know? But they did cause trouble for the DGP when Buffa took over, because, again, the players are bullshit. The players are nothing. We're in control. And, well, Buffa took advantage of that and was able to basically grind their game to a halt, to the point where they were just like, alright, fuck it, we'll leave. You know? All of the DGP's wants are very simple, and they lacked nuance. It's just pure entertainment, and ultimately, because of that lack of nuance, because of that shallowness, they hurt others callously, right? And it does lead to more problems for them. Loss of their goddess, the Geats on his warpath right now. But it's also reflective on the audience members of the DGP. Because we saw it with the parasocial arcs, with Jean coming to understand the nuance of being a player and being in the world that they're in. Kyun realizing that the players are people, and that they have wants and desires all on their own, and it's not just his own selfish desire that can be placed on them. And that's ultimately the downfall of all of any character in the show, is their desire being shallow, being weak, being not fully formed. Meanwhile, Ace in this episode has his desire like fully solidified, but it's been solidifying the entire time. Early on, it was just through random wishes, seeing what it is that he wants and trying to figure out the best way to get the attention of his mom, and just all these different little things. He's grasping at straws, right? And also solidifying through talking to other players and seeing their decisions, and that reflected with his goal with his own mother and all these different kinds of things. His desire becomes more and more well-rounded, becomes much more nuanced. It has depth behind it, right? Because he realizes he could just say, oh, I want to take down the DGP, but not everyone in the DGP is directly evil. Jean is an example of that, and he comes to that understanding, and they both become friends in that way. And he also realizes not every good wish is perfect. Like, yes, Keiwa, it is perfectly reasonable and logical to want the world to be at peace, but there is a lack of nuance there because of, like, how do you execute the peace? What constitutes peace? And understanding, Ace comes to understand and understands and really, like, solidifies that idea of it's not perfect, right? And not every seemingly evil wish is wrong, because we saw earlier with Japan that, like, yeah, no, certain wishes are wrong, bad, evil, and should be stopped, because it's like, it hurts other people. But not every wish that seemingly is just to hurt people that's not its ultimate goal, because of Buffa. Buffa shows that ultimately you can have a wish, you can have a desire that is destructive, but is at its heart good, you know? With Neon, it's the idea that a seemingly selfish desire can have its place. Neon just wants to find love, all the certain things, and in relation to Buffa and Keiwa, her wish seems kind of shallow, but ultimately that's what the show's kind of going on about, of like, the way Neon's going about it is shallow. Not shallow is the wrong word. It lacks nuance. But Ace's wish was ultimately save my mom. But he understands the multitude of variables that go into that, and it can't just be purely save mom, because that would just wreck a lot of different things. It is selfishness without being selfish, right? And also there's the idea of selflessness can be in and of itself a foolhardy idea of just giving everything up, right? You gotta fight for yourself in some ways, because of what he saw with Sarah, of like, she's giving all this up for Keiwa, okay, fuck it, we need to help and save her, right? There's layers of that in there. And there's also the, again, we're also shown Ace's desire becomes more well-rounded, becomes more well-nuanced because of all the people he's talked to, and even the fact that he comes to the understanding of what his mom has gone through as the goddess, of like, she was being used as a gun, came from Punk Jack. Not just in the recent episodes where Punk Jack reveals that information to everybody as solidifying as like, yeah, no, this is what they were doing, but with Punk Jack's actual story of being a person recruited into the system basically against his will for the want of his own father. Punk Jack was foreshadowing for the goddess. And that's interesting. All these different little things are combining and folding and morphing into what Geats has learned, what Ace has learned through all this show, through his experiences, to form a more nuanced idea of what he really wants, what the desire is, and get to the point of like figuring it all out on how to like save everything, right? Like the hero he is. He's got all the information now. It's time to start figuring out his plan, because at the beginning of the episode, he gets knocked out for a little bit, and he gets to go onto the astral plane and talk to his mom one-on-one. Finally, for the first time, he gets to do it, and they say what they need to say. Her going like, oh, I didn't want this for you. I wanted you to just live a happy life, all this kind of things. And he's like, yeah, but I can't do that while you're suffering, all these different kinds of things. It's my want, it's my desire. And just like, they hug it out. They do all the things. They get to say their final words to each other. And there's something interesting being done here, because Ace flat out says, basically, you did nothing wrong. You were weaponized. You were used against your will and all this kind of stuff. And she fundamentally disagrees, because she still had a part in it. She still had a hand in it. And that is the final bit of nuance, I think it is, of Ace isn't just blindly going, mom is good, everything's good. Like, this is the final piece of nuance that like Punk Jack really brought into focus. All these different kinds of things. It's like, okay, everything is flawed. She was used and abused, but she was also basically complacent. She did these things for years, and because it's shown recently, she does have a will. She can stop it, but she didn't. So she is complacent in some ways. That's a fascinating wrinkle of the fact that she had done wrong. She views herself as doing something wrong, but Ace goes like, no, but like there's nuance and all of it. Sorry. And as she's falling apart, the DGP finally does the whole thing. They're getting out of that time period. But Ace then grabs reality, takes a hold of it, and molds it to what he wants, molds the world back into fruition, fully understanding the scope of the desire of everything he wants, everything of why he wants it, how it'll hurt and affect other people, and how he can mitigate that damage, right? I have a feeling he fully understands of like, yes, we got to do this, and we got to do it in this way because action A will have Z consequence, and he is taking those consequences into consideration. He beats the bad guy with some dope powers, and he does save the day by fully understanding what his desire is in its totality and not just letting it be surface level like so many other characters and groups in this show have. This was an absolutely amazing episode. It was a great showing for the final form for Geats. I absolutely love it. It looks sick. I love the blank circle in the middle of his, like the mid-torso black area. It's great. The white, the orange highlights. It's simple. It's sleek. It's not overly rambunctious. It looks really good. I love the nine-tailed cape. It looks amazing. Everything just like, one of the best final forms in Kamen Rider history. I absolutely think so. I loved the suit. I love how it was used. I loved all the effects that they used with it. The action was fantastic. The camera work, fantastic. It's been really, really great. One small detail I just kind of want to point out. Did the goddess do the whole closed mouth ADR voice thing because the actress had braces? Because every once in a while she like opens her lips just a little bit and it looks like you can kind of see some braces, right? It's not the end of the world, but I think it's just kind of funny. Like, yeah, no, you're an omnipresent and ever-powerful goddess. It's kind of weird if you have braces, you know? But either way, great episode of Geats. Absolutely loved it. And hey, if you loved this video, you could like and comment and subscribe to see this and many more videos on this channel. You can also follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Boingo Rider. I stream on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays and do a variety of things. And you can follow me on social media platforms, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Boingo_Rider, and the link in the description to follow me on Tumblr. But in the meantime, we have some comments to talk about real quick. First one from Fishbop. The transformation for Boost Mark III reminds me of when Naruto went four tails the first time. Yeah, I wonder if there's like something in the folkloric ether that just like this is how nine-tail things work, you know? Or if it was just like, hey, there's already a really popular anime that kind of did what we're doing. Let's just crib some of what they did. Either way, yeah, it looks very similar, especially when like the highlights of the helmet appeared on Ace's face. Yeah, it's neat. Next up, from Blaze Chaos. The start of the game had Buffa beating down the trio. People have been disappointed with them being pushovers, but it's not like they have the powers to even damage Buffa in the first place. I wonder, when they will release those power-ups that are long overdue, Keiwa got command during episode 14 and nothing else. To be fair, this ties in with Keikura's wish, but I don't know what to think about it. Suru showed a bit of his powers, and an excited with Sarah Gazer, despite the helmet only being slightly different. Guess they're tired of the Glare 2 shenanigans. How hard would it be to beat him? Not hard. And can Ace rewrite the rules like Hyper Muteki form? Also, we know his mom's involvement But how about his dad? Why did he fall in love with Mitsume? What happened after the DGP found out about their illegal relationship? This will be the questions that will be answered, akin to Sento's dad arc and build. This will be the shortest arc of 6 episodes, hoping for 45 run and for Geats to stick the landing. I definitely do hope it gets the episodes it needs to tell a story. I do think it will stick the landing. I haven't been disappointed yet. And when you first made the comment and I responded to it, I was like, oh yeah, we haven't heard anything from the dad. This episode is just like, oh yeah, your dad. And it's just like, god damn it. Now you bring him up? What's he gonna do? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out. Maybe it was just more of like, he got boofled by, the whole grand exit thing. That may be a thing, with the dad. But it's just a mention of him, but no more mention of like what happened with him. Yeah, I can understand people being upset that the side characters haven't gotten more power or power-ups or anything of that nature. To that note, though, this feels very light on like forms and upgrades to me. Like it doesn't feel like it's just jam-packed with stuff, you know? It feels light. It feels very like tight in terms of that nature. So I'm okay with them not getting power-ups. And it's like they're gonna get power-ups in the next little bit from the rumors we've heard. So, you know, with Keiwa getting Shogun and Neon getting Fantasy, I think it was. So I think there is things that they can do, right? There is a path forward for them so far. Yeah, is that all I want to say? Yeah, that's it. Look, this video's coming out a little later than I planned, and it took me a bit to figure out my note situation with it. So, it's a little goof. Next up from Esconde, when Punk Jack was my hero this episode, coming in with the save for our boys and giving the guys the missing information. Even though he wasn't able to unite the riders, I appreciate his efforts. People online were able to decipher part of Kekera's wish and the whole of Baroba's. For Kekera, what people were able to make out was the right to exist in this world until, probably something to do with Keiwa and the development he wants him to achieve. For Baroba, her wish was the right to exist in the world until I see ideal misery. That sounds very fitting for them and their wishes, rather than wishing to upgrade buckles for their favorites. Other people pointed out, I love the parallels this episode. Michinaga saying it's better to forget than Keiwa. Sarah and Neon is similar to what Neron tells Ace before they fight. On the opposite end, we have Keiwa and Ace, who both refuse to give up and choose to keep fighting, echoing the lesson Ace taught Keiwa once again, that you have to fight for what you want. Yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal of Geats as a show, is like, you have to fight for what you want, but you also have to know what you're fighting for, right? Just play the one clip of Zero from the Mega Man game, but like, Keiwa has a good goal and he's right to fight for it, but ultimately people are pointing out, the characters in the show, that it is foolhardy, that there's lack of nuance, that it's not well thought out enough, while Ace is fully forming his desire and is able to fight for it more robustly because of that, right? Like, if you know you are going to be dealing with an oil fire, you don't put water on it. That kind of thing, right? And yeah, no, I think Baroba is definitely like, oh, she just wants to be around. You know what it'll be? It'll be hilarious. The good guys will win. They'll beat the bad guy. They'll do all this stuff, and then Baroba's just gonna be in the background going like, "Oh man, it's a happy ending," and she disappears. That's what I have a feeling will happen with Baroba. And Kekera, you know, just to be boring, his goal is probably just, I want to stay in the world until Keiwa becomes like a true Kamen Rider, you know. And I think that will be when when Keiwa fully understands the depth of his desire and what it goes into it. And I think Ace will be there to help him out with that, you know? Because that's just a big part of the character arcs, is like, what is your desire and how does it grow, change, become more nuanced, and all this different kinds kinds of things. Next up from Toa Nui, gotta say, I was not expecting both Sarah and Neon to have their cores destroyed this episode. I figured if either was going to go out, it would have been Sarah, not both of them. So on the side of the sponsors, I really want to know what Baroba and Kekara wished for, because it sounded like they one final trick up their sleeves before they had to go. Also, I just realized that there might have been foreshadowing to Kekara not being as good as he seemed, considering all the good sponsors were human, except for Kekara. Well, possibly the little unrelated him being more on Baroba's side will make it more of an even split between the sponsors. On the admin side, I think with this episode I can accept Punk Jack's return, because it seems our man in red might have the authority to get wishes granted without needing both admin drivers, which I suppose makes sense if he's basically the boss and has full control of the DGP assets. Continuing with the admins of the subs, I used Punk Jack imply that the whole goddess is using other people's happiness might not be on Ace's mom and might have be exclusively the DGP. And if Ace's mom doesn't need other people's happiness to grant wishes, I wonder what the DGP have been siphoning happiness for. And on the Geats side of things, I think Geats' new forms might be a reality warper. While I haven't seen Akito, Hibiki, or Olive Saber, I think that might be the first for what I assume is going to be the final form, and I hope we get some comic book level shenanigans from that. Finally, on the unrelated topic, Shin Kamen Rider was available in theaters this week, and I guess had a re-showing on June 5th, and I was wondering if you had plans to see it, or if you would, and if so, would you do a video on it? First things first, I was not able to go see Shin Kamen Rider. It's not the end of the world. I'll catch it in home theater, home viewing stuffs. And when it comes out there, yeah, I kind of want to make a video on that. But back to certain things. It's definitely that dude was not the main guy. There's layers upon layers of people who have power, but yeah, it looked like he was just able to just use the goddess. And on the happiness thing, maybe the goddess didn't need happiness to do all that kind of stuff. But if so, what is the happiness used for? And I think the ultimate idea might be the future people live an idyllic life. What if they siphon happiness from the past to basically fuel that idyllic life in the future? That could be where all that stuff is happening. It could also just be nil, because Ace's mom was like, no, I'm also at fault. Like, I'm not, like, yeah, no, I was used, but I am also at fault to an extent in this episode. So there's kind of layers here. And yeah, no, Geats may be the first reality warper, and boy was it fun. Like, just him bouncing off of buildings, breaking them, and then just like making them back again. Oh, it's just Crazy Diamond from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Shine on, you motherfucker. But yeah, no, and as Esconde said, that people were able to translate their wishes. Baroba just wanting misery, Kekara wanting something, that kind of thing. But I don't know if it's directly like good or bad sponsors, because remember, Kyun, the first we saw of Kyun was as a letter. He wasn't as a person. So I wonder if there's something there. Who knows? There may not be anything with that, you know? And Neon and Sarah got out of this whole thing immediately. It did lead to two great scenes this episode of Kawa coming back home, and Sarah is just nonchalant. It's the peace he wanted, you know, just him and his sister just living their life, but it's not right, because Kawa understands of like, okay, this piece is at the fault of other people, you know, this piece is at the hurt, the pain of others, right? And it's heartbreaking when Kyun is just trying to go to Neon and going like, hey, you want me to tell you this? You forgot, so I'm trying. And Ben and John just doing their jobs. It's like, that's heartbreaking. All that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that is it for this video of Gateway to Geats and this episode of Kamen Rider Geats. And hey, like, comment, and subscribe, do all those kind of things. And until next time, keep on Geatsing on.